Hello, calculus fans. All right, let's try this problem. We're going to find an equation of the tangent line to the curve y equals square root of x, e to the x, at the point where x is equal to 2. Now it's probably important to note that the square root in here does not extend to the e to the x. So that's just square root of x times e to the x. So the e to the x is not under the square root. Now when we want to write down an equation of a tangent line, or really any line at all, there's two pieces of information that we need. We need a point and a slope. Now we're given part of the point, we're given the x value of the point. Now we need to come up with the y value. So let's take this value of x equals 2 and plug it into the function and see what we get. And that's this value here once we plug in x equals 2. So once we've done that, now we have an x and a y value, so that is the point that we're going to use when we use the point slope form of the line. Alright, so we've got the point, now let's work on the slope. So we get the slope by computing a derivative. So let's rewrite the original function. Instead of saying square root of x e to the x, let's write it as x to the 1/2 times e to the x. I'd like to write it that way because we can go ahead and use the power rule on something like that. Alright, so let's see about computing a derivative. Notice that we have a product here, so we're going to have to use the product rule. When we use the product rule, then the derivative looks like this. It's the first function. The first function was x to the 1/2 times the derivative of the second function. Second function was e to the x, plus the second function times the derivative of the first function. Now let's work out those derivatives. So we get x to the 1/2 times e to the x because, as we've seen before, the derivative of e to the x is just e to the x. And then we're going to do e to the x times the derivative of x to the 1/2. So in order to differentiate x to the 1/2, we have to use the power rule. So that's where the 1/2 comes out in front, and then we have to subtract 1 from the power. And that's how we go from 1/2 to minus 1/2, because we're doing 1/2 minus 1. And that's how we get the negative 1/2. Now that we have the derivative, let's go ahead and plug in x equals 2. That's going to give us the slope. So if we plug in x equals 2 into this expression, we get 2 to the 1/2 e squared plus e squared times 1/2 times 2 to the minus 1/2. So I'm just plugging in 2 into that whole expression. And if you'd like, you can do a little bit of simplification and you end up with an expression that looks like this. And I suppose there's more simplification that can be done, but I think this looks reasonably good. So now let's take our slope, which we have here, and our point, which we have up here, and plug all of that into the point slope form of the line, and we have our final answer. So when we plug all that in, we get this equation. Y minus root 2 e squared equals e squared times the quantity root 2 plus 1 over 2 root 2 times x minus 2. So just plugging everything into the point slope form of the line. Okay, that's all for now.